What's happening, bud?
What's going on, brother?
Shit, what you doing?
I'm at the in-laws. We did dinner over here, and I'm sitting on the back patio getting ready to do this DFS, Bubba.
You said, hold on, old folks. I gotta go do something, huh?
Them old folks were behind me. They heard that.
That's awesome. That's
You ain't
awesome.
much younger
You
than you,
tell the
old
old
man.
folks. Oh, I know they're not either. That's why I can call people old folks now because I'm getting there.
Yeah.
Man,
Uh,
I see Cade over
yep.
there.
How you doing, Cade?
Uh, he's not on the mic. He's not on the mic. I don't even know who will show out. We threw it up so late, but I still say we do it. We get it up on the YouTube page and start knocking these things out. You been looking at the card all day?
Yeah, I got it wrote up. I'm gonna break down as far as like I'm just gonna give like a beginner's guide for it to start off with. I'm gonna tell what to look for, the scoring system, stuff like that, like what you want to aim for. Um, yeah, so we'll go from there, and then we'll get into this card.
That works for me. I'm getting my last little stuff that I want to get up here, and I'll be ready to go.
Yeah, we're good. We'll give it a few minutes.
I didn't even I didn't even get out of work till about 15 minutes ago.
Oh wow.
Whatever. I'm not complaining. There's worse things that could happen in life than having to go to work or stay at work rather
Get that money.
every day. All right, I'm pretty much man. I can't find the other thing I'm looking for, so I'm just gonna say fuck it, and we'll launch it off. You want to go ahead and give a couple minutes breakdown of the scoring and everything else? It doesn't matter. Nobody's in here. The YouTube channel gets plays, and I'm sure
Yeah,
some folks
yeah.
will.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, we haven't been really touching DFS too much. I've started dabbling in it a little bit. So me and Joe had talked about it, and he wanted to start, trying to make a thing out of it. So here we are. So as far as the scoring system and stuff like that, I'm gonna give it like a quick, easy little beginner's breakdown to start with. So for the beginners that have never played, here are the basics that you need to know. You start off with 50K salary and have to build a lineup consisting of 6 fighters ranging from the 6,000 to 10K in salary. Scoring and what you need to know. Strikes are normal strikes are zero point 0.2 points. Significant strikes are another plus 0.02 points. So for a significant strike, when somebody lands a significant strike, it's actually zero point 0.4 points. Control time, you get 0.03 points per second. Takedowns are 5 points apiece. Reversals and sweeps are 5 points apiece. Knockdowns are 10 points apiece. When building lineups, you want to target fighters with grappling upside as often as possible. DraftKings reward wrestling more than any other style when you do the math. One takedown is worth more than 12 significant strikes alone without adding in the control time and the strikes your fighter can accumulate on top. The good thing about wrestlers is that you can somewhat accurately predict the amount of takedowns a fighter might have with no info available to us. So you kind of know what you're getting with the fighter types. As far as like the goat of DraftKings, it's got to be Dvalishvili. Rob Dvalishvili is the DraftKings goat for reference. The amount of takedowns he shoots tends to lead to a big payday, even in a loss if it's competitive. Knockdowns, while harder to predict than wrestling, if you know the fighter that has power and tends to get KO finishes, then obviously you do want to sprinkle them in because of that early potential. I primarily like to stack wrestlers, finishers that have the potential to win early, but takedowns are our bread. First, a second round finish is 70 points. Third round is fourth 40, fifth 40, and decision win is an additional 30 points. But you also have the early finish, which is an additional 25 points. Um, Under 60 second finish. So the reason we like fighters that are particularly dangerous in the first round is we get the 90 points finish, and in the first minute you get the 25 points, which I was talking about, for the total of 115 without adding in takedowns, knockdowns, or strikes. But the issue is the predictability is not as easy as selecting a wrestler. Don't use the fight doesn't go to distance. Fight doesn't go to division as a guide for selecting your fight. Focus the heavier classes, which, while yes, the finish could materialize early, but more often than not, the volume isn't there in the event. It goes to a decision and doesn't score well. this is very good to use. He's a striker or a power.
You're cutting up a little bit in that last couple sentences there, Trace. Trace, you hear me?
I heard you.
Man, I think we lost Trace. He was in the middle of breaking down the scoring. I'm not sure what happened to him. He was talking.
Yeah, I heard him talking, and then he started breaking up real bad.
I think he cut out. He's probably going to reconnect. That's all right. I can start getting up the card here until I'm sure he'll be right back in. Trace is pretty enthusiastic about this space here. But how we're going to do this is we're going to look at like the early prelims, then the prelims, and then we'll hit the main card with value rates. Can you hear me, Trace? How you doing over there, bud?
All right, so back where I was at. Izzy is not a high-volume striker or a power striker who's going to put people away. He doesn't tend to score well. John Jones is another example. If you use that as a guide, it will focus you more on the heavier weight classes rather than the women's and lighter men's weight classes, which is the issue. Which brings us to value and ownership. More people are going to tend to fade women's and lighter men's classes, which gives you a chance to get fighters at a much lower ownership. They might go out there and score you 80 points. And hey, you're only one of 100 people who rostered that person. It's going to put you in a good position to cash out. So ownership is everything in GPPs, but it doesn't really matter in the cash lineups, which we'll talk about now. Okay, so cash versus GPP. Cash, the first thing I want to preach is if you're depositing money every week, you're doing DFS wrong. This is why you play cash lineups. You're not going to get rich off of it, but it's a great way to constantly build up your bankroll so you can continue to play GPPs on DK's dime, on DraftKings dime. This is because it's a lot easier to win. The optimal way is usually to stack the main event, especially if it's likely to go all 5 rounds, because the scoring potential, the loser more than likely can still outscore some of the earlier fighters just because of the volume they're able to accumulate. Then from there, you want to play fighters you believe are lock plays. If you're having trouble finding a few you like, it's okay to take one of the punt plays from the bottom, preferably one with a low chance of getting finished, so you can afford a more expensive player who has a clear route to victory. All you have to do is place in the top 50%, and you double your money. Ownership doesn't matter here. Actually, I don't know if as far as GPP, because I mean as far as cash games, but in like other sports. If you focused in your cash lineups on people that are like the chalky lineups, like the high owned players, if you focus on those in GPP, you probably are in cash. You're probably going to do well because chalk usually, chalk feeds chalk. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna. There's a reason why they're that high usually if you can afford them. And plus, using the loser in the main event also gives you the chance to have more room for more salary because usually they're not that highly point of value. GPP. The best thing I can tell you in GP is don't play your favorite fighters. Fuck who you like. Fuck your picks. This is a numbers game. You play anyone that realistically has a chance to win, even if you don't like them. You don't like Colby Covington? Who cares? That dude scores insane points when he fights. Play the game, not your favorites. Shout out to the Degenerate 75. That was one of the first things that I learned from him. He's also a great GPP player, but he's a golf enthusiast. He does intend to eventually try to get into the MMA game, and if he does, I think he's going to change the game. The dude's got some crazy ownership. He knows how to figure it out. So you're going to want ownership on most fighters as long as the price and score potential makes sense. Not everyone should be in your player pool. Ownership is huge in GPP. If you can get someone at low ownership outside of single entries, the chance of winning a GPP with a single bullet is insanely low. So you want the variety and larger fields to differentiate yourself from other people who are playing because they don't like that guy. You don't have to use all of your salary because that equals chalk. If you do not win, if you do win, you're likely splitting that pot with 100 people. Don't be afraid to leave $500 to $1,000 salary on the table. It's already going to make you so much different than 75% of the people. And don't be afraid to watch the lines as they go throughout the week. You can pretty much see what everyone else is betting and fade the public in certain spots. All right. So here's my value plays. These are people that are under 8,000, and you, more than often than not, you're gonna need a few dog picks to hit a GPP or whatever, because you can't pick all favorites. It's not gonna work. I mean, you're not gonna have enough cash. So my value plays are Chris Curtis. While he is low volume, he's a decent cash play, but he is iffy on GPP. So Pereira, use caution. There are fighters like more, but the KO potential is there, but he's not a minute winner. I also like Rob Font. Rob Font is a great DFS piece when he puts up points even in fights that go to a decision. He's only scored less than 100 points in a win once. He's a sneaky cash play, I think, because I do think it more often than not goes to decision, and I think it'll be a high volume fight. So I feel like he's a good piece. Steve Garcia, he has 2 KOs in the UFC. We are attacking the finish possibility here at a discounted ownership. Christian Rodriguez, simply put, he's taking on an 18-year-old kid who the jury is still out on. He beat the Joker, whatever that guy's name was, in his last fight, but he was 0-4 in the UFC, including the Contender Series. Low ownership. If this kid wins, he's the slate breaker. You may not like that the chances of him winning, but if he wins, he will break the slate, and you will have to have that guy in your thing. So I'm not saying play him in all your lines. I'm just saying look at him. Jorge Masvidal. Barnes is hittable and has a questionable chin. We're in Miami. Even if he just wins a decision at 6,600, he still pays that bill. But yeah, so Joe, do you have any questions, bro?
No. I was actually wanting to let you get that all out. It's our first space on DFS, and that way we can always tell people to go back to this space if they want to break down on how it works. So I just wanted to let you go. I'm ready to jump into the card a little bit. So if you're ready, so like I'm looking at some of the projections, right? Like the ownership projections, and this is actually this is from DFSArmy.com.
I sent you
and like
I sent you the website I'm using. If you didn't get it, it should be in your inbox.
I'll look right now. But like when you go over to DFSArmy.com,
Yep.
it's a pretty cool little website. Like I don't know the reputability of these guys first the next. It's always going to be arguable. That it's like trying to pick who's the hot bet or pick the hot site, right? Like, so you just got to kind of pick something you like and go from there. I got that link right here, Trace. I know I got it right here. I want to look at the same thing you're looking at. But over at DFS Army, they've got Chase Sherman at 2% ownership. If Chase Sherman wins, which like I'm a fade that guy. I never say bet that guy. I fucking bet against him all the time. But like if he pulls it off, that's going to be huge if you have him in your lineup, because nobody else is going to have that guy. And you're probably getting him at a super low clip. It's a little hard to go back and forth. Next week, I'll try to break my page down a little better, but like at $8,800, I guess that's not as low as it gets, but I don't know. It just seems like a good play. I'm new to DFS, so I don't know how you feel about that, but that's like a guy, you're in a higher weight class. There's likely going to be a finish up there, right? Or at least a good chance that there's going to be a finish up there. Man, in the other space, I would never say this, but in this space, I think Chase Sherman is someone to look at. I mean, if you've got websites that are reporting their guys having less than 10% ownership, and that's the only guy they've got under 15%, other than Luna, who's at 14%, I feel like that's one you got to grab. And then like when I'm looking at point projections, like I know they're just projections. Sherman's projected to make like 60 points. And I know that's not huge, but if nobody else has him and you can fit him on your roster, I don't know why, bro. He just stands out to me huge. You're probably off of Sherman, though, would be my guess,
so
right?
I'm actually off of Sherman, but with you saying that, though, it does kind of make me want to play him if he's going to be if that ownership's accurate. I haven't found anybody that's been able to put out an accurate ownership guide yet. So, I mean, I feel like if we can eventually figure that out, which I want to reverse engineer
So
that stuff. And
I do know.
if we
I can answer that a little bit, Trace. I don't mean to
Yep.
cut you off, but so what that is most of those sites are people who record their plays and input what their plays are going to be. And that's what their site has for ownership. So, like, when you're looking at that, if you know one site's busier than the other, like, I don't have that knowledge. I've spent the last, like, I used to play a lot of DFS, so I really understand it. I never really got into looking at sites. And for the past few weeks, because we're going to do this space, right? Maybe probably more like a couple months, I've been kind of digging in, trying to figure out what each site does and what each site is for. And, you know what I mean? And that was one thing I picked up on, that I was like, man, that's important to know that these are their numbers for their members. So just whatever that's worth, I think that's important to know. I think Cade's having a problem getting on the mic here. I'm going to try to request.
Yeah, I was actually just messaging him. That's how he dropped out. I don't have co-host, so I can't actually bring you up right now, Cade.
Oh, because you cut out. I forgot you don't have it because you came back. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Cade. What you got?
Go ahead, bud.
Hey, is this the captain mode you guys are talking about?
No, but we can do. I mean, it applies for captain mode.
So what is it exactly?
So captain mode, basically, you're gonna want to pick the fighter that you think is going to score the most points that night, and that's your captain. So the way captain mode works is that fighter that you put in the captain position receives 1.5 points, or 1.5x points. So you would get, so if you got a first round knockout, instead of getting 90 points, you would get 135.
I know, but like when
Yeah,
I
like
go to play this mode, like where do I click on? Just
What do you mean?
classic?
No, captain mode, it'll have its own thing. It'll say classic, captain, and rainmakers.
Yeah, I'm saying so I click on classic to play what you guys are talking about.
Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, but captain mode is the same thing, Cade, except for one of your players gets
Yeah, and the
1.5
captains are
points.
more expensive, correct?
No, it's the same place. You're just assigning a captain. So it's like you draft your team and then you're like, yo, Yanez, your team captain. And then Yanez, whatever he scores, you get 1.5 the amount of points.
Oh, okay, I see.
It's pretty cool. I actually liked that one. The one I'm having a hard time understanding is Rainmakers. And I feel like it's just because I don't know nobody that's played it. And I haven't just dove in because, I don't know, I just don't want to. I want somebody to explain it to me. I'm having a hard time with Rainmakers, but captain mode, classic mode, that stuff's pretty much all the same.
So
It's just
I
know
did
your
try to look into that
multipliers.
for you, Joe, and I can't play it in my state, so rainmakers is kind of out of the question for me.
Hey, what about well, I mean, I know you guys are gonna dive into the card, but like I was gonna create a lineup maybe tonight, and I was thinking about playing Roses.
Roses is actually
So,
one of the like we'll get into it, but Roses is actually one of the highest salaries on the card.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna
what?
play. I'm
and
gonna
he's got,
play some underdogs and stuff too, but I was gonna make him like one of my picks.
Yeah, I mean that's.
so I'll be honest.
Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So I mean, with you picking him, the only issue is because they cost so much. You want of that range because he's in the 9,500 range, I think. He you need him to score, and with him being a wrestler, that is like his style does work for high scoring fights. So I mean, if he can take him down and dominate him and get an early finish, he probably scores good. My only advice for that would be you look at that 9,000 range because you're only going to be able to grab one of them from there usually without having to like take a bad pick somewhere else. And of those in the top 3 or 4 spots, I would just pick the one that you have the most faith in that's going to run through somebody because at 9,500 you need them to score over 100 points to pay their bill. Otherwise, you're losing out on value.
Would you say it's better to play in like the ones that like the $1 or $2 entry ones that have like $20,000 worth of prizes, or like the $50 entry ones for like 20 people?
So that's really going to depend on your bankroll. If you got it and it's not going to hurt you. Like, ideally, you only want to play like 1% of your bankroll. So if your bankroll is $500, $5, I think it might be 10% actually. So it might be $50. But just play what you're comfortable. With you being new, I recommend single entries. Just just because you can kind of pick your lineup, and nobody's going to spam a bunch of the same different lineups over the thing. So you're going to have a smaller single entry will be better for you, just because a lot of people just go in there and play favorites. So
I'm actually looking at my history right now on DraftKings,
yep.
and I guess I used to play this captain mode, and the most I've ever won was like $5 on it, and it's probably because I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was just picking random people I thought was gonna
I
win.
played I played a lot of the 1-in-5s starting off, and so the thing about GPP, that's why I'm talking about cash too, is GPP. You got to be prepared to throw away like 75% of your tickets. Like, you're not going to win every time. Like, and if you're winning every time and you're just doubling your money.
Trace. I gotta interrupt you. What is GPP, bro? Grand Prix prizes?
A guaranteed prize pool.
Oh yeah, see, I meant to say something to you earlier, but you were on a roll. You can't use these abbreviations. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So I know people listening are gonna be like, "What the fuck is this guy talking about?" And I'm not being mean. I'm just being like, "Bro, you were saying GPP. I've been over here trying to figure it out." I'm like, "Is this Grand Prix prizes? What is he talking about?" So these are guaranteed pools, is what you're saying, Trace.
My bad, I was muted. So what you want to look at for GPPs or guaranteed prize pools is they have a good structure. Like the top five. Like if you're in a I don't know, like a 2,000 person pool, top 500 or 400 should have a prize pool with, like, whether it's doubling your money and then onward up from there. Kate, you asked earlier about like contest selection, and that's a good question. So contest selection, you want to find one that's going to pay uh, at least 20, no more than 20% max. Sorry, 20% max of the guaranteed prize. So like, if you're in a pool that's 10 grand, like the first place get the whole thing is 10 grand. First place, you want them to at least get 2 grand. So that would be 20%. Anywhere from 15 to 20 is good. Any more than that, you're just losing out on too much money, because they're paying the high guys up top and not the ones lower. So you want to position yourself to where you're making, even if you don't hit the nuts lineup, if you at least double your money, you're happy. But if you're constantly doubling your money on GPPs, you're better off just playing cash. Because the lineups you're making aren't good for GPP plays, because you're not taking risk. It's all about risk, man. This, like I said, you don't play your picks.
What do you mean playing for cash? What does that
So
mean,
cash
Trace?
lineups. I did break this down, but cash lineups are so it's, like I said, you build one. The best way to build one would be the co-main event. If it's a 5-round fight that you think's going to go the full rounds, them guys are going to score a lot of points. So it's okay that you're picking a loser in cash. The thing is, you want to pick guys that you feel like are good chances to win, and you're not worried about ownership. So the way cash works is, if say you buy in for the cash one, it's a $5 buy-in single entry. I recommend playing cash so you can play GPP. Always play your cash lineups, and like, you can play a $5 double up, 25. I think they go up to 100, maybe even 400. If you play those, you can like, you're going to keep your money. You're going to keep building your bankroll, but you're also going to keep uh, being able to play DraftKings on their money through GPP. So you're basically just keeping yourself afloat with cash and hoping to hit big on the GPPs, but you're also still building your bankroll while you're doing that. So it's not like you're losing money, whereas GPP, like I said, 25% is if you're hitting 25%, like you're doing pretty damn good. So
I understand what you're saying. Now, I missed one detail earlier, and that's what had me all confused. I won't rehash it and drag it out. But okay, I missed something. I understand now.
I'm gonna
So
send you. I'm
is
gonna
G
send you the complete write up all the way up into the value plays like before that. That way you can just have that, and we can just throw that up every space. That way, if somebody's
that
new,
works?
they can just come in and read that for themselves. We ain't gotta rehash it every time. But
Yeah, no, but we needed to talk it now. So, like, listen, we're gonna jump into the card in a second here. So, listen, I got some questions on me. What is the ones that got? So, is it like when I hear Gordo or Degen talk, and they talk about get into the contests that you can afford to max out the lineups. Like if there's a $1 contest, if you got $20 and you can play a $20 contest, or you can pay one
well, see the way it's
contest
set
with
up, they
max.
actually have 20 max for 25 cents. So you could enter 20 lineups for $5. But the thing with that is you need to figure out a good generator because like when you're doing like a high buy-in like that, doing hand-picked lineups is going to take you forever. So they do have like I think Roto Grinders has a
Generator.
a
Yeah, I
generator,
got
and
you.
you can use that. You can set up certain ways, and it'll like you can give certain fighters more value because you think they're going to win, and you can take certain fighters out and build your lineup that way, and you're going to have more accurate lineups, and you're going to have better lineups because statistically, if those data or those stats are accurate, it's going to build you the best
But
lineup with the information that you're putting in. But the thing is, it's only as good as the info you give it. So
that's G. You're talking about doing that in
yeah, for
GPP,
cash
right?
lineups,
You
no.
don't do that. You're saying do not do that in the
Yeah, so
cash lineups. Take
yeah,
your
GPP
strong lineups for cash,
GPP
right?
play with your balls. You know what I'm saying? If with cash, you want to play smart plays that you think are like as close to a guaranteed win as you can have in MMA. Just like, but somebody that you know is going to score good, like wrestlers. Like I'm going to give examples later in here, but so yeah, like I said, your bread and butter is wrestlers, man, because that they for whatever reason DraftKings just values wrestling so much more than anything else, and they scores high because you get, like I said, you get control time, you get all the takedown, the strikes, all that stuff. I mean, it all adds up.
I got you. So look, we're at the halfway point. We only want to kick this space for about an hour every week. We spent the half that we would probably spend jumping into other things, talking about DFS. That's fine for this week. But why don't we jump into the card now? Like, what? Why don't we just jump right in? Because it shouldn't take that long. But we
No,
gotta.
yeah.
I want to get in it.
All right, so
So
you want to read them off?
I was gonna bring it up.
You don't have to do like a tell of the tape and stuff like that. Just the
No, I'm just gonna talk about. I'm just gonna bring up the prelims, the main card. I'm just gonna name off the
all
fights,
right,
bro. That's
cool.
it. We're not gonna get into. This isn't money line betting. This is so like. Well, I'll say group them. So like the first group of fights that we're gonna be looking at is damn the Mo. Oh wait, he got rescheduled. Okay, is the Jacqueline Amorium, Sam Hughes, and then like Steve Garcia and Sha Yalin. So we just look at the four of them right now. You want to hit them first? If not, I can hit them on the why don't we do that? So on the projections, and I use rotowire.com projections. They're not money. Some of them are way off sometimes, some of them are on, but like for a guy like me, I got to have something to visualize a guide. I kind of look at some of them and I've tried to understand the scoring and I try to have my own opinion on some of them. I don't take it as like God's word, but I figure for a talking point for the space, this is probably as good a spot as any. So Sam Hughes is projected at 51 points. And her ownership, I got to click over here. I'll get better at this. 51 points with an
I'm gonna go
ownership
ahead and cut you off,
on,
Joe. Those aren't your
yeah,
projections. That's your fantasy points per fight. That's what they average. So like for here it says like Sam averages 51 to 53. That's not how much they're projected. It's what they've scored like throughout their UFC career.
understood. All right. So projected value. Oh, I see it. I was just in the wrong column because I was scrolled down. So I got you. All right. So everybody, I'm a dipshit.
No, we're all
Um,
learning together, man. Nobody's dumb. We're gonna do this together. We can succeed together.
So what do you have her FPTS as?
Her fantasy points per fight, it's
Yes.
53.2. That's the
53.2.
DraftKings average.
Okay, and then I get it. So then RotoWire only has her projected at 56.
Okay.
So she's still projected
So
low.
the way that is a winning score. That is what they expect her to like. They don't expect her to throw up a lot of points, but they're saying that basically she's going to win 30 points from the decision and only score 26 points throughout the fight. So I mean that right there, she doesn't cover her bill.
That is a good.
Yeah.
That's a good way to understand that, Trace. That's a good way to understand that. Okay, that's nice to hear.
So all right, we'll
Go ahead.
jump into this card. So you have Sam Hughes, who is whose salary is at 7,200. I'm not seeing my projections on. Oh, there we are. So okay, so 50. So she's scheduled, or salary is at 7,200. You want her to get 10x her value. So like I said, good rule of thumb is if you have a fighter that you like, if you look at them, do you think they can score 10x their value? So at 10x Sam's value, it would be 7,200, or it would be 72 points. You just said yourself that she's projected for 56 in a win. That's not good. So you probably don't want Sam Hughes in your lineup, but at the same time, she's going to come at such a low ownership that I think if you did play her, if she's able to keep it striking, she probably doesn't score high. But if she's able to take her down in wrestler, which I wouldn't recommend, being that she's a jiu-jitsu specialist, like I said, wrestling pays out. So she does have win equity. It's just, do you want to take that risk? I think there's better options for cheaper. So I'm actually going to have some ownership on her, but for the most, it's going to be a low bit of ownership, maybe just like 2 or 3 lines, but nothing crazy. Now Amarim, I do think that obviously we don't have much to go off of. She's valued at 9,000, so she is one of the higher end fighters. But it's women's MMA. She is a debutante. It's up to you whether you want to take that risk or not. I do think she's going to go very low owned because of who's around her. There are other bigger names with, like, just more proven around her, and that's why I think she's going to have so much value on her. So I do like Jacqueline. I do have her in a few of my lineups. I think she's a very solid option.
She's projected she's projected at 9.8 on RotoWire. So that's at like the 10 that you were typically that you're talking about trying to hit.
Yeah.
They have her projected at 88, and they have her average, or whatever you want to call it, at 72.
Well, let's just look at her history. If you're going off her history, most of her fights, or almost all of her fights, have ended in the first round via submission. If she wins via submission in the first round, that's 90 points alone, without the takedown, without the however long she was on top of her. And if she gets her out in the first 60 seconds, that's 115. That's a solid, it's a solid person to have in your lineup.
You looking at anybody in the next fight, the Garcia Shaylin fight?
So I'm just gonna do it like this way. I'm gonna give you my targeted fights, and then I'm gonna give my avoided fighters, and I'm gonna give you my lock-em-ins. We're gonna speed this thing up.
Yeah, I was looking at that just now. I'm like, we got to skip. We got to just talk about the people.
My targeted fights, Garcia and Nordenbeck are both on my targeted fights. They are one of the target fights I'm looking at. So Garcia, let's see. Okay, we'll start with Shailin. Shailin Nordenbeck. His salary is 8,900. Good enough for him though, but because he does tend to put out a high amount of points when he wins. In his win against Soriano, he put up 99 points. In his win against TJ Brown, he put up 105 points. And then obviously with his fight against Minner in the KO in the first round, he put up 111 points. So if you think he can go in there and out wrestle Garcia and control him for 3 rounds, because I don't think he gets a finish here, if I've been realistic. If he does what he's been doing, he pays his bill, and you do want him. So like, I will have ownership of him. But I personally think that Garcia is going a little under the radar on people's because I don't know. I mean, the dude's got knockout power. He in his last three fights against Charlie Ontiveros, he had a second round knockout which scored 116 points. And his loss to Mahashate, he got knocked out and only scored 4 points. So that is a little alarming. But like I said, I don't think Nordenbeck's going to knock him out. I think if anything, he wins by decision. And then his last fight against Hooper, Steve Garcia knocked him out in the first round and had 3 knockdowns in the event and put up 133 points. So if he's able to get a knockout, this dude, he's a potential slate breaker if he wins. Do I think he wins more often than not? No, but he's worth a look at because, like I said, if he does win, he wins. He scores well.
Okay, so who else you want? You got anybody else you want to get out there?
Yeah, I'll just keep rolling if we want me to do that. All right, so next we're gonna target the Pfeiffer and Meerschaert fight. I'm gonna want ownership on both just because, I mean, one thing Gerald Meerschaert does is win when he ain't supposed to. He's the master of the last minute submission. I mean, he's legit BJJ black belt on the ground. I mean, there's no way around it. In his win against Silva, he came back from behind and got the finish and scored 85 points. His salary was only $7,200, so he paid his bill. In his loss against Jotko, he did not do good because he was controlled for 3 rounds. Against Stoltzfus, he didn't score very well because he got the finish late and he was getting dominated. But Miradov and Fabinski, he scored over 100 points both times as an underdog. So he's worth a look at. I don't think he wins. I think he gets finished, but if he does, the way his path to victory pays out. So you do want to have some ownership on him. However much ownership you want, that's on you. How confident you are in him, I can't tell you. But and Joe Pfeiffer, Pfeiffer. He's only had 1 fight in the UFC. It was a first round knockout. It was 106 points. We have seen that Meerschaert has a suspect chin. He's been put out a couple times in the UFC. Pfeiffer does have that big power, and Pfeiffer's also a wrestler. I mean, obviously the best path to victory is for him to keep it standing and try to get another body bag, as his nickname implies. But at 8,700, I do think if he wins, he pays his bill. And I think he is a solid option for a to start off your lineup with if you wanted to go a little cheaper and be able to have a more well-rounded built lineup. I do think he's a good option.
Okay, so I want to jump in on that one. I think Joe Pfeiffer is like gotta have in your lineup. He's 8,700 if I'm not mistaken, right? That's where he was at.
Yeah, he's 8,700. He's also this is just one of them fights that it's just there's no way it goes. There's no way it goes.
It's B. Joe Pfeiffer, man.
Yeah, B. Joe Pfeiffer.
It's B. Joe Pfeiffer.
Yeah, B. Joe Pfeiffer.
I'm telling you, it's B. Joe Pfeiffer. And I feel like at 8,700, there's probably going to be a ton of people on him. And if you miss him, your lineup's going to struggle. I feel like he's going to get it.
The thing with that,
I looked at the numbers. Gerald doesn't. I know you said those 2 fights, but bro, even in the overall picture, unless he gets that early upset, he doesn't score well. Like I did look at this one a little bit.
I agree with you that Pfeiffer's going to be one of the most owned fighters probably on the card. So with that being said, with him coming at such a high ownership, in the event that he does lose, if you fade him, you're probably already going to have such an advantage on everybody else because most people are going to play him. And with him losing, if he does lose, if he loses in like a quick fashion and not a good like a even fight, he scores bad, and that probably kills. That does kill your lineup as far for a 6 for 6. And if you don't have a 6 for 6, you're not winning the GPP. So when I say 6 for 6, that means all your fighters win, and all your fighters, at least get close to what they need to cash out at. So if he loses and you have him, your lineups are dead. You're not going to win. You can maybe double your money, maybe triple your money, but you're not going to get the $5 buy-in and take home $1,000 like you want to. So, like I said, watch the lines. I mean, you can kind of see where the line started at with the odds, like the odds makers thing. versus what happened when the audience or the fans started betting it. So just kind of pay attention to that. Usually, more often than not, the way the line starts off is pretty accurate.
Yeah, I get what
But
you're
this fight
saying.
right here, like I said, I think it's pure violence. I think it does not go to the decision, and you're gonna want to have whoever wins this fight, because more often than not it's a finish, and more often than not it's gonna score high.
So
Particularly Pfeiffer.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I get you though. I understand what you're saying about Mershard though. Like, it's the guys who are like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna just fit him in this lineup," and it's the guys that just take him that low ownership that are gonna be like, "Holy shit, I hit that line."
Right.
So I understand what you're saying about trying to play smart. I'm gonna jump. I'm gonna lead on a fight. So maybe we each just get to a couple. I actually looked at the Kevin Holland fight for this. Um, Man, so the two numbers on Kevin, let me get it out there. Kevin Holland is 9,300. Um, Ponzinibbio is, man, I gotta figure out a better structure, 6,900. And so to use the projections, I know they're not really your thing. So Kevin Holland is projected at 84 at a 9.1 return, right? And then you've got Ponzinibbio at 6,900 projected at 55 points. But I'll be honest, the better side of me thinks Ponzinibbio can upset Holland early. And I think Ponzinibbio is the super cheap guy that you should have in a couple lineups. Kevin Holland is a good play at 9.1 if you want to spend 9,300 on him. But we've seen the answer for Kevin, and I know that's not just traditionally who Ponzinibbio is, but the truth is, when people know how to beat you, they use it, bro. So like, I'm not gonna break down the whole fight. I just think Ponzinibbio is a guy that I'm looking at playing, like jumping in like a GPP where I can play a bunch of cheap lineups because I want to do it that way. And I'll bet you I put him in two or three of them. Like, I don't know. I think he's likely to be the upset of the night.
So, I'm actually I'm in agreement with you. I would say if you're going to pick a side, you're probably going to want to take Ponzinibbio, just because Kevin Hall doesn't score well. In his last couple fights, let's see, there's like 6 of them. Against Brunson, he lost 53 points. He was valued at 8,400. Didn't reach his bill. 35 points on Vittori for 6,600. 7 points against Dawkins. He did get over 100 against Cowboy Oliveira, and he was 9,100. Against Tim Means, he was salaried at 8,900. He scored 8,800. Against Chimaev, 8,700, 0 points. And then against Wonder Boy, 61 points and a loss, which is good, decent for, especially if I'm being 4 rounds, but you want winners. So more often at 9,300, more often than not, Holland does not pay off his tab. So I don't think he's a good option. I mean, he might go out there and start him, but Ponzinibbio has been pretty durable throughout his career. In his last few fights against Miguel Baeza, he was 7,900 salary. He scored 79 points. Against Jeff Neal, 82-42. Against Pahea, 8,000 salary, 48 points. And against Morono, 81 points. Honestly, I don't really want ownership on either side, but I do see what you're talking about. I would just for value, as far as price-wise, Ponzinibbio would be the better side for that, just because he's a lot cheaper and he probably pays off his tab a lot more often than Kevin Holland does. So this is an avoid fight for me. This is one of my fights that are only avoided.
See, for me, like if I'm looking at trying to get 20 lineups in one contest, right? He's one of them guys that like, okay, I can put him in a few, and if he hits, what I get for his salary compensation lets me make the rest of the lineup so much stronger. So like, like I said, he'll be in a couple for me. What other fight you got another one?
I got a couple more. So we got Rosas and Rodriguez. This is a fight I want to target just because, Rosas is, he is nothing if not a wrestler and a submission guy. So his path to victory scores well. He's going to take somebody down, control them, and try to submit them. So, reversals are good points. Is 5 points of reversal and sweeps. So, he has the potential to add up. But so does C-Rod. He's coming off his last fight was a win, a submission against Weems, and he did lose a decision to JSP. But JSP is a lot better. A lot more proven wrestler, anyways, than Rosas. I do like Rodriguez as a sneaky play. I think that he's going to go overlooked because nobody's giving him a chance against an 18-year-old kid that honestly we don't know what we have with him yet because there's just not enough information out there to make a. We don't know if he's the real deal or if he just. The guy he fought last time, I can't think of his name, but he goes by the Joker, the one that just got kicked out of the UFC. He was 0-3 in the UFC, then 0-1 on the Contender Series. Like, the guy he fought wasn't a world beater and wasn't a ground fighter. So I would have ownership on both sides. I'm not going to have as much Rosas as a lot of people are. Like I said, I think he's a fade. I just don't know when to fade him. But luckily in GPP or in DFS, you can fade whoever whenever you want to. You don't have to play him. Chances are, they may not be in the winning lineup. 90. What is he? What is he at? Rosas is at 9,100. So yeah, he's got to get a finish or just dominate in wrestling to pay off his bill. But he is a good option. I do think if he wins, he does finish. I think he's possibly a second round finish. I'm not saying play Rodriguez. I'm just saying look at him. I think he is a good option. He's cheap. He's only 7,100. He's a good dog shot because realistically, you want somebody that has the possibility of getting the finish in the win, and he does have that. We do know he has legit jiu-jitsu, so he's worth a look at. The next fight I have is Font Yanez. So I think honestly, this is actually another good fight you could use in your cash lineups because I do think this fight goes the distance and probably has a lot of volume to it. Both these guys are durable. If there is a finish, I would say Yanez is probably more likely, but I do think Font has the boxing to beat Yanez in a pure boxing match. What I think is pretty much going to be because we know Yanez isn't going to shoot a shot. Font does have the wrestling, which is why I do like him because he has more paths to victory. So. Raw fight in his last 4 fights. KO versus Moraes, 119 points. A decision win over Cody Garbrandt. He was 8,300 salary. He had 114 fantasy points. Against Aldo in a loss, he scored 77 points and almost paid off his salary in a loss, which is crazy. And then a loss to Chito Vera, where he scored 114 points at 8,300. So even in losses, this man scores points. I do think he is a good option for not only GPP but cash. As far as cash goes, I think this is a good fight to target outside of the main event because I think this fight's going to be more high volume. I think you can get Rob Font and Adrian Yanez in your lineup for relatively cheap and still have a lot of room to move around for the rest of your picks. And like I said, in GPP, you can have a loser, and as long as it's going to be a high volume fight, and there's going to be a lot of scoring, which I think this one does. I think it goes to decision, and I think Rob Font wins. But you could have them both in your lineup and go from there, and you have a solid lineup from there.
Yeah, there's a couple fighters I think that are going to cause a big problem for people who. You can't have them all, but like Carl Williams is gonna he'll score a lot.
So on my lock 'em ins, that was I am targeting the Pereira and Adesanya fight. It's worth targeting. I'm not gonna have much ownership of either one just because of that. Neither one scores really well unless Pereira gets a finish, and Adesanya is not gonna be throwing a lot of volume because he's gonna be scared of getting countered. So he's gonna be fighting smart, and apparently he's a wrestler now. So I don't know what we're gonna see out of him. So I'm avoiding him. I do think he's the better minute winner of the two. If Pereira wins, it's mostly like a finish like it's been the last few times. But I'm not putting too much into that, so use it as you will. My lock 'em ins. I feel like these guys are pretty much guaranteed wins. I like Ignacio Bahamondes. He, let's see, in his last 2 fights, he fought Danny Roberts. He got a 3rd round KO. He was salaried at 7,800. He scored 104 points. And then against Rongju, he was salaried at 9,000, and he scored 99 points. So when he wins, he does pay off his salary. So I think he's a good option, and I think he's live for a finish in this fight. I think whether it be so, when I say this because to say this, I think the club and sub is there. I don't think Bahamanis is going to finish him on the feet or as far as a knockout. I think he hurts him and submits him. Uh, good thing to know is Ogden has never been knocked out, but he has been submitted a few times. But I do think either way it goes, I think he's going to be the better minute winner. Ogden only has like a 14% takedown accuracy, which is abysmal. So I think Bahamanis is just going to be way too much for this guy. I don't think Ogden's UFC caliber, if I'm being honest. Another lock in for me is Lupe Godinez. She is a wrestler. She takes people down. She scores well when she does. Against Carnelosi, she scored 129 points, and she was salaried at 9,000. Against Loma Lubumi, 86 points, 8,800 salary. And then Gomez Juarez, 8,600, 127. She has had questionable IQ in her last fight with Hill, with her not shooting the takedowns, which makes me a little hesitant. But like we said, whenever she does fight to her ability, she does win and she does score well. So I do think she's a good lock-in pick, and I will have her at a fair bit of ownership. And then lastly, my last lock-in would be Williams. So Carl Williams is an animal. I mean, this dude's got legit cardio that we've seen. He had 8 takedowns at heavyweight in his last fight and a 3-round decision win. He was salaried at 9,000. He scored 130 points. We all know Chase Sherman is very susceptible to takedowns and submissions. Carl Williams isn't a proven finisher, but the fact that he can go the cardio for that long and keep up at a good pace and keep dominating, that's going to be a lot to deal with. I think he's able to get Chase Sherman out in the first or second round via sub. But even if he goes to decision, the dude, like I said, he puts up crazy points, so he's definitely somebody I'm looking to lock into my lineups. And then lastly, I have the avoided fighters list. Obviously, Chase Sherman's on that list. I do like what Joe was saying about it. I do see a path for him if he's able to keep it standing and strike. I just don't think he can. I think he has true heavyweight power for that weight division. I think if he does land clean, he can put Carl Williams out. I just don't think he's going to get the chance. So the highest fighter on the slate is my avoided fighter, and that is Gilbert Burns. I personally don't think Burns is going to win. He has questionable stand up. He throws looping shots, has a questionable chin, and realistically, Masvidal has some of the best takedown defense in the UFC. I think if he's able to stuff the takedowns and keep it striking, it's only a matter of time before he puts Gilbert out. And Gilbert being at 9,600, it is. Outside of like a first round finish or just like a complete mauling of Chimaev of Masvidal, he doesn't score well. Let's see. Against Stephen Thompson, he scored 84 points. Against Chimaev 52. Against Magny, which that to me was a huge step down in competition, he did score 103 points. But I just don't see, like, at 9,600, you almost need a first round knockout or finish to pay off that bill, and I just don't see him doing it. I don't think he's going to be able to get Masvidal out of there because only a few people have, and he's fought the best of the best. The realistic thing about it is he's got the lead takedown defense, and if Gilbert can't get him down, he's official land. He's just not going to win that fight, a striking fight, more often than not. And then obviously I'm avoiding Ogden because Ogden's going to Ogden. And Kelvin. I kind of went back and forth on this. I just see this fight being him and Chris Curtis being just a slow, low volume strike fest. That's I can't really see Chris Curtis knocking out Kelvin Gastelum. I mean, my man's a real Mexican, got that Mexican chin. You can't really put out Mexicans like that. He hasn't been put out. I mean, he's been durable throughout his career. He's been submitted. I don't think he's ever been knocked out though. But he just doesn't score well. He's just not a good DraftKings player, realistically. And outside of the knockout, neither is Chris Curtis. If Chris Curtis can't get the knockout, he doesn't score well. So, my favorite dog on the card is Masvidal, just because if he wins, it's going to be by knockout more often than not. And even if it doesn't, even if it goes to a decision, he's only 6,600 salaried. It doesn't a win, just a win, will cover his bill, and the amount of openings you'll have by going so low on him because he's the cheapest player on the slate. You're going to have so much more options up top for better fighters. So I feel like he is a good shot in the dark. Really, I mean, he is, like I said, he's the more potent finisher of the two as far as striking. So I feel like he's a good option, and I will have him in a fair bit of my lineups if I'm being honest. But I'm not telling you who to play. I'm just trying to give you the information out there. Make your own picks. Just don't fall in love with your picks. Play the game, man. It is a game at the end of the day. It's a numbers game. Don't fall in love with your picks. Play smart. That's all I got, Joe.
All right. Well, there's a few fighters that I don't know. I don't know. There's a few fighters that I think Jacqueline Amora is too much money for her value. I think a lot of people will play her. I don't think she's going to return much for her $9,000 salary, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to fade her. I'm saying if you're spending that much money on somebody, I personally would avoid her. Rosa is another guy. I know he's going to put up a lot of points. A ton of people are going to be on him. And if he can't get it done early, the points that he needs aren't going to be there. Like his big projections, and everybody's taking him because they're counting on the fact that this kid is going to go in there and get it done early.
Mm-hmm.
And the money line side of me, like, listen, if Rodriguez can go out there and get into the second round, third round, even if he loses, he's going to consider that a win. He's not, like people set realistic standards. I'm not saying that's his only goal, but one punch at a time, one step at a time. Like that's the approach that's going to be taken here. So like, I just feel like if Rosa doesn't get it done early, just by having spent that type of money on someone else that may get it done early, you'd be better off. It's hard. Like when I'm looking at my lineups, I like Adrian. I definitely like Adrian. I think he'll score big points for 8,500. I think you'll see 100-point range out of him. I think Adrian will do really well. I think Adesanya. So I don't know. I have a couple combinations of lineups. I think Israel. So I have the lineup that I'm pretty sharp on. Israel and Alex are interchangeable at the end for me. So I'll probably take it with both of them. Um, I'll probably swap Izzy and Alex out because some of the higher up guys and the lower up guys that I'm on. So like when I'm looking at the lineup that I'm building that I feel like is strong, I'm looking at Ponzinibbio as my dog, and with Pfeiffer and who I'm high on, and I'm not giving a whole lineup, but with Pfeiffer that I'm high on and Ponzinibbio that I think can pull it, that gives me room for Carl Williams, and then I can play three different guys in the 8,000 to 8,500 range. So like I can look at several different guys there. There's a whole bunch of guys in that range that I can get to if Ponzinibbio does what I need him to. And he gives me two guys that I feel like are must-haves. Like Carl Williams for me, even at that price, he's probably going to put out the highest points on the whole card. He'll probably be the big winner, the guy who outscores everybody. And then you're looking at man, I'm sorry. It's cold out here. I didn't turn the fucking heater on. I forgot. And if I turn it on now, it gets all loud in the background. So Carl Williams and then Joe Pyfer. I think Joe Pyfer is going to be another guy. He's in the 8,700. He's at 8,700. If you can get a guy even that ideally could score 100 for 8,700, I just feel like that's a good grab. So like when I use those three kind of as my lock-ins, and then like on maybe some other ones, I'll probably exchange Pyfer out, just take his fight completely out of the mix and put Giannis in his place. Yeah, man, I just feel like that's if I strike out on Ponzi, I get it. I'm fucked. But I feel like if he gets it done and that's my dog of the week, it gives me a lot of room to hold on to like Carl Williams and Joe Pyfer, for example. I don't know how you feel about the tactic, but that's the tactic for me.
No, and like I said, like in single entries and stuff like that, you kind of want to get different because a lot of people are going to be playing the same chalk as you. Like if you like somebody chalky, like it's fine if you have 5 guys that are chalk. You just need to have one guy that's going to differentiate you from somebody else. And I think somebody like Rodriguez, in the event that he does win, like I said, it does make a huge difference because he's cheap, and Masvidal. But more people are going to be on Masvidal just because everybody knows Masvidal. So honestly, there's more fighters than I gave. It's just I'm not playing them, but I'm not saying you shouldn't play them. Like I do think Michelle Waterson Gomez is a good flyer. I think she. I mean, we've seen Pinheiro get almost kicked in the face and win an Oscar. I mean, she hit the ground and you thought she was dying. She wanted out of that fight. So the toughness is kind of questionable for her. So I do think Waterson's a better minute winner in that fight. I think she can actually submit Pinheiro if they went to the ground. But I understand ownership on both sides. I'm just not taking a shot on Pinheiro, and Waterson is a good dog that I might throw in a few of my lineups. I do think the Gastelum Curtis fight is, like I said, a low slogger. I don't think anybody gets a finish there. I don't think it scores very well. I lean Gastelum on on volume, but I think Curtis is going to land a more damaging strike. So it's just too much variety there. I don't know how it's going to go. I did take a fight goes to split decision prop on that fight personally at plus 450. It's worth a look at. I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. But yeah, looking at the rest of this lineup, I think, like I said, I'm not playing Holland. I'm probably not playing Pons. I'm not playing Sherman. I'm not playing Ogden. Yeah, that pretty much just covers everything. So I hope this helps. I don't know if any of y'all are going to play, but if you do, I hope this helps you out, and I hope y'all come back. If y'all have any questions, throw the hands up. We can get in here real quick. If not, I think we're good to shut down, or Joe's good to take over.
Yeah, we navigated our way through. We'll get this smoother,
Yeah,
man.
no, like next week I won't go through the entire how to play again. Like I said, we'll just throw that up into the bulletin board, and if people don't know, they can read it. We'll jump into that, and then I should be done within 20 to 30 minutes, and then Joe will have a segment that he's doing for like what's going on in MMA and just like the dirt sheet and stuff like that. So we should have about down better pack next week.
Yeah, and I'll be in on doing what you're doing, Trace. I'll do it with you. I wasn't sure how this would go this week, so I didn't prep too much. Now that I've kind of felt how we do it, I definitely think we can make this much smoother, man. I think it'll work out well. No one, I know we're not supposed to give up lineups, and nobody's gonna listen. And World was in here for the whole damn space, so I'm not saying that if you played Ponzinibbio, Williams, Pyfer, Yanez, Adesanya, and Curtis, that it would be a 562 point score, even if Pons only hit his average of 68 points. Definitely not saying that would be a lineup to play, but it was just cool numbers to add up. Someone requested in. Go ahead, bud. What you got?
What's going on? What's going on? That man, just trying to figure out my lineup for DraftKings.
Yeah, what you working with? I mean, don't give me everything, but like who you like and who's your core players.
Dude, every time I pick the big names, I always tend to lose. I've only done daily fantasy a few times, but it's like a lot of people that win, they always pick people that are on like the early prelims. They get like a sick knockout or something. So
Yeah, I actually like to target the early prelims because not only you're probably gonna get those guys at a lower discount. Like a lot of people aren't gonna play them because they don't know them. But not only that, you kind of know where you're at after a few fights. Like you know if you're gonna do well or if your lineup's dead already. So I do like playing the earlier fights. I like playing the
yeah,
smaller guys.
I do want to play Kevin Holland and Izzy though, just because I think both of them are going to be pretty active.
So I don't want to deter you from anybody at all, man. But we were talking about like just look at Holland's scoring history. Like you're gonna pay a lot of money for him. Look at what you might get in return for him. Like if you click his name and look at his points, like he could have a really good night. Play him. I do not tell people to turn anybody down. I do not want to manipulate your lineup. But he was one guy. If you go back and re-listen to this space, because we're getting ready to close it down in a few minutes here, um, we did mention that Holland doesn't put up a lot of points for the amount of money that you're going to pay for him. On average, bro, just on average. That's all we're
Yeah,
saying. Because he's up
Hey,
there in
hey,
the high end.
Brian, let me ask you something. Are you a part of the community, or on Topic MMA community?
No, I just typed in MMA for space to
Well,
see what
I tell
people
you
were
what,
talking about.
we have our own community. I'm going to throw this I'll have to break it up into parts, but I'm going to throw in my complete write up for like how to play and what to target, what you're looking for, and all that stuff in there, and you can use it as a guide.
All right, sounds good.
That'd be sweet. That'd be sweet. We'll keep that in the community, Trace. That's a good
Yeah, one
spot
hundred
for it.
percent.
I'll see if we can pin it. If we could pin it to the top, that would be even better.
Yeah, I agree.
How do
Yeah,
you join the
we'll
community?
I think.
hit our page, and then in the top tweet, drop it down, and there's a tweet in there in the thread that says community. When you join it, it's going to add a new button to your Twitter for communities, and then you just use that button to go into the community. And if you post,
He's cutting them, but only the people in the community can
button
see it.
on the bottom of your Twitter and
But
everything.
yeah, so you'll have that little bar at the bottom of your screen, and it'll be a let's see, it is a two person icon that you click on that'll bring you to your community once you join.
So what's the community called?
On Topic MMA, you can
Okay.
actually.
Just click this profile, the host, and you'll get to it from there.
Okay.
I've done already like we went for about an hour. I did a full breakdown as far as like for a beginner's guide for people just not starting out at the very beginning. So we've only been going for about an hour. We're almost done, or we are done. But if you want to go back and listen to it from the beginning, you can. It'll probably answer a lot of your questions. I have my lock-em-ins, my target fights, which are the fights I'm going to have ownership on both sides, and then the fighters that I'm avoiding because they typically don't score well, even if they win. So I mean, it'll
Yeah,
give you a good little guide to start with.
I wish I wish that Barnett was still on the card.
Yeah, you liked him to beat Sherman.
He was just fun to watch. Really,
Yeah,
that's
he's
it.
a very fun fighter. I've known who he was since before the UFC. Like when he was kind of like doing this super fights, like he was a super heavyweight. Like yeah, he's a wild man. He's an athletic big boy.
Yeah, I appreciate it though, yeah.
Yeah, no problem, man. But I think that's good, Joe. If you got anything you want to do, yeah, hit him up.
Yeah, so in later spaces, we'll cover other shit in the last half hour. We're not gonna break them down, but Amanda Nunes and Pena was announced for 289. Did you see that?
Repeat that.
Nunes and Pena, 289.
Oh yeah. I saw I got it announced earlier. Hey, I want to shout out to you, man. You've been here since the beginning. I appreciate it, man. Respect, brother.
Yeah, that's awesome. Absolutely awesome. That's why I threw my lineup for him. Anyways, is that all you got, Trace?
Yeah, I think we're good, man. And like I said, don't be afraid to leave salary on the board. If you use all your salary, you're probably not going to be different from anybody else. You're putting out a chalk lineup at that point. Like anywhere
Oh,
from 500 to
Trace.
1,000 points, I think is fine leaving on the table. And like I said, it's going to differentiate you from like 75% of other people that are casual players that are just throwing in a lineup just for the hell of it. They don't really know what they're doing. So if you just steer away from like the big names and the yeah, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Trace. I meant to ask you. I forgot 3 times,
Hey,
bro.
go ahead.
If there's a draw, like 20 people come in first place. If you have extra salary left, it doesn't matter.
No, I mean if y'all
Oh, that's
you split
shit.
that pot the however many ways you win. That's why I say if you avoid the big names and don't play the big chalky lamps and leave some salary on the table, you can have some of the same other fighters in them. But if you went all chalk like they did, you'll have the same lineup or close to the same lineup for them, and you're gonna have to split that pot however many ways you won. So like you may not win more often than not on GPPs. Like I said, that's why I say cash is your way to go. But when you do win, you're gonna pay off all the shit you lost.
Nice. Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's pretty much how all the big time players say, that we've talked to say too. The other good advice that, man, I am not a guy. I love fighters. We've had them in spaces and everything, but like when you're looking at these lineups, you cannot look at them as like individual people. You cannot say, "Oh, that's Jorge, a guy." Like you just got to look at what they do, what they cost, what you think they can make, and you gotta build from there. This is one area, like building parlays. It's you cannot do this with your heart. You have to try to play the guys that you think are smart. You're competing against a lot of people at one time. You don't play guys because and like Jorge is the perfect example. He's going to be hammered in this. I bet you he hits 50% of lineups because people love him, and it's not a smart play. Gilbert Burns is a smart play. I don't care if you're betting money line, parlays, DFS. Gilbert Burns is a smart play. If you're on that fight, I'm not saying he's a smart play, take him, but like if you're on that fight, the smart play is Gilbert. We all hope Jorge wins. I hope he gets the fucking knockout. I hope and pray he gets the knockout. But the smart money is on Gilbert. So like that's the only thing that like I really stuck with me when we had those interviews. Like other things did. I don't want to say the only thing, but that's one thing that stuck hard with me. I'm like, he's right. When you do this particularly, you are not looking at the human being. You are looking at the numbers and trying to build a point value. Yeah, I don't know. That's all I got, Trace. I rambled for a minute there. My bad, bud.
Oh no, we're good, man. Let's close this baby out.
Everybody have a good night. We didn't even tell. I don't know if